They're a staple. Wow, the bells are out
It's
just for
okay.
you.
They just bless this podcast. They just making sure that we keep it holy.
The podcast has been blessed. Cigar Club family, welcome to another episode on the Cigar Club podcast. Today, I'm beyond excited. I'm sitting down with a good friend of mine, an incredible cigar maker, a friend, an entrepreneur, the one, the only Matt Hunt from FQ Cigars.
That's right.
FQ.
Phenom number 1, number 3, and proper, baby.
Say the full name so I can hear it.
Fernandez y Quiroga.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. First of all, diving in on this Phenom number 1. It's beautiful. It's creamy. It's delicious.
The go-to, baby.
It's the cigar I always say, like, you don't have to think about it. When I walk in, I'm like, I want to smoke something. It's like Phenom number 1. It's going to hit every time.
Every time.
A little citrus, a little cream, a little pepper.
That's right. Never misses.
I'm thrilled about it. But Matt, we've had a hell of a 24 hours.
It's been a day. It has been a day.
Matt got in last night, immediately to the office, rooftop, bourbon, cigars, the whole 9. Hours later, cigars later, we hung the cleats up, right back in at 8 a.m., shooting content.
That's right.
Talking about new projects you got coming on, new stuff we're working on behind the scenes that you're helping out with.
That's right.
You do it all.
I mean, I'm just trying to do as much as you're doing just so I can keep up.
Here we go.
I just want to keep getting invited to these things.
Welcome to Cincy.
Hey, thanks.
You leave tomorrow.
I
kind
do.
of sad.
I mean, I'll be back.
But you will be back. For those of you listening or watching, if you're watching on YouTube, that don't know Matt Hunt or don't know FQ Cigars, you got a pretty steady rotation in Cigar Club. Like every 2 or 3 months, you're going to see a heavy dose.
Which we appreciate. FQ highly appreciates that.
They're a staple. Wow, the bells are out just for you.
They just bless this podcast. They just making sure that we keep it holy.
The podcast has been blessed. But for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with it, FQ Cigars, and you've been on, we've done YouTube videos together, we've done lives.
IG lives, yeah.
So I just want to hit people with the quick and dirty, and then we can get into some meat of things, what we're drinking, what we got going on, all the crazy stuff you're working on that I can't keep track of. But FQ, you started, we were talking today, like 7
Yeah, it's been
years ago?
So I got into the business 10 years ago. First time I went down to Nicaragua. Then 3 years later, after back and forth learning everything I possibly could, finally felt comfortable making a brand. Started the brand, started doing that road warrior thing, going and visiting retailers, spending the days and weekends there. And then here we are. Now we're in about 90 stores, and I got distribution with the guys over at Poshik.
Yep.
That they're the best guys ever.
Yep.
Helping me out.
We love their stuff.
We do love their stuff. They also do Postania, so they're holding it down. And so now, just slowly but surely growing and always looking to do bigger and better things.
Yeah, you surprised me with the whole line and these little 4x44s.
I know, nobody knows about that.
Well, now they do.
Now they do.
What are those about?
Those are awesome. We ended up doing 4x44 of all 3 blends. It was supposed to be something that it was just for me and my significant other, just because we were going to be going to Serbia. They smoke a lot of cigarettes.
Casual.
I wasn't going to be sitting there smoking cigarettes, so I figured I'd make something a little bit more manageable as opposed to just sitting there for an hour and a half while everybody's getting up. And they came out banging. They came out phenomenal.
They came out swinging.
They did. They're a little bit more aggressive than their larger Vitola counterparts, but yeah, they are.
Which is a common misconception.
I know, because everybody thinks that, a little cigar not going to be that strong. They just think that it's going to be whatever. The first one I smoked was that number 1 Connecticut, and right out the box, I was like, damn, jeez. And they're awesome. So that's something that we're working on, talking with the factories, trying to see if we can make that a full-blown production, because you have received a few of only 150 ever made of each
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I received a few.
You're kind of a big deal.
It came around my birthday. It was a beautiful little box of mini FQs.
Yeah.
And fun-sized FQs, if you will.
I mean, especially during that time
Are you
when I was
taking
getting
the shades off?
Yeah, I just want to be able to really see, just want to really be able to see you.
I love that. But those are incredible, and I know you got other stuff working on behind the scenes. But FQ Cigars, to me, and you're making all production still at Noxa.
Correct. Everything's still made at Noxa.
Cool.
I mean, everything that I've made up to this point is never really did limited. Yeah, we're like the batches when it comes to the proper are pretty small batch. But I mean, everything I have is cornerstone brands. Nothing that I would want to be like, oh, you can't get this, you can't get that. It's like, I always was a strong believer. If it's a good cigar, keep it on the market, let the people smoke.
Right. No, I love that mentality. And this week, especially since you've been here, we spent a lot of time. Obviously, we talk cigars, we talk blends and stuff you're working on, but something I always appreciate whenever you're in town or I'm in Orlando or we're talking on the phone, whatever it is you have this innate passion for, one, other people's passions, and two, the vices you enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm a vice guy too. Like, if I could just, every time I like something, turn it into a project.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty much what we've been doing at CigarClub.
Correct.
That's exciting to me, and it like drives me, and it makes me pumped up to like wake up and work on that project. So we've released like CigarClub Customs, which is like crazy people that let me like blend cigars,
but are so good.
You smoked the Rodriguez Familia exclusive the other day.
Well, what was the other one? The
Taino 44.
Taino. That one was, dude. I was surprised. That one's money.
That's a great cigar. And then we've done the bourbon picks, the coffee stuff, but it's just like it's these passion projects that I'm like, how do we turn this into something for our Cigar Club family? And we have always connected on that because the businesses that you start or the businesses that you're partnered in are all based on like things that you love or things from your family or your childhood or things you already do. And you're like, how do I turn this into a business?
Well, I think that's such a good way to approach business, right? It's like, even when it came to cigars, when I first did it, only had 6,000 cigars, 2,000 of each blend. And at that time, I would have been like 21, 22. And I'm like, well, worst comes to worst, I'll have my favorite cigar for the rest of my life. And it ended up working out that people also liked it. And I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, going back to what we've talked about all the time, it's like, you got to be passionate, but more important, you got to be prideful, right? Because I know that no matter the industry, it's one of those things that if you're not prideful on it and you're just trying to make a buck and you're just trying to move product and all this different stuff, it shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what's so cool about you guys. You guys do such a good job of consistently being interested, consistently being passionate about it, and being like, you know what? Worst comes to worst, we got our favorite this thing that we're making, which is great.
Exactly.
Which I think is awesome.
And so many times people or brands, I think it's easy to fall into the trap of like just finding exactly what the consumer wants and trying to replicate that and like catering to them. But then at the end of the day, you can't cater to everybody.
Correct.
So you have to have some form of like gut check where it's like, would I legitimately want this?
Correct.
Is this something I want and that I would continue to consume or something I want to be a part of? And when it passes that test, one, people feel the energy in the drive.
Oh, yeah.
And two, there's always going to be people that hate it.
Correct.
Which is fine.
And this, I actually just read something the other day. It's like, if everybody likes the thing that you do, it might not be that good.
Right.
Because that's the thing, is like, you're only catering to what everybody likes. Whereas if you're trying to do something different, you're trying to do something revolutionary, you're trying to do something that's like, that'll stand the test of time. I mean, if it's just going with the trends, it's like, that's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost better to have somebody that absolutely hates it.
Make
and
it
then
polarizing.
Have the people that absolutely love
correct.
it.
Make it polarizing. And I think that's like, honestly, the best way to approach stuff. Because I can still remember the first guy I ever had, Will Snyder, my guy, was the first customer that I ever went to. That I was visiting this retailer, and this guy got out of his chair, and the owner was like, "Oh, hey, this is Matt Hunt from FQ." And this guy was like, "Dude, the stuff you're making, unbelievable." I'm like, I even told him, like, I will continue doing what I'm doing because of you.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's that kind of, let's say any day that whoever the person that's creating is might be like, oh man, like, am I doing it right? Am I a phony? Am I that? Mm-hmm. All it takes is one person, a single fan, a single person to really give you that, hey, you're doing good.
The validation.
The validation. You know what I mean? And I know there's some people who say, oh yeah, I don't need validation. It's like, do you though?
Yeah.
Maybe you might. You might need some validation. And it's not to say that like, I wasn't able to like, before I even got into manufacturing in Nicaragua, I was getting stuff done in St. Pete. I went to one of my buddies, and like, I can still vividly remember this, being 19 years old, coming with like this little bag of cigars, unbanded. And I'm like,
you made it like a local roller.
And some random St. Pete one. Yep. And I was like, I'm going to be in the cigar business. Give it to my buddy, Jimmy. And I was like, what do you think? It's like, these are terrible. Okay. Damn. All right. So it's one of those things that's like, I think it's good to have both, because if you only have people who love everything you're doing, it's like, oh, it's not anything special. Everybody likes it.
Right.
Whereas, and then if you have the other way where if you're able to take critiques and take criticism as constructive, that's like the biggest thing. And especially when it's something that, even what we were talking about before, it's uncomfortable because you don't know it really well. Yeah, you want to be confident. Yeah, you want to be passionate. And you can have those things, but you got to be able to take that criticism because
And
otherwise, you got to be able to endure and keep going. Because I mean, even right now, like whether it be sauce, whether it be coffee or anything like that, I can honestly admit that that's the reason to get into something.
Right.
Is to do that, the cool behind the scenes to, you might have the snobs in the industry, but the whole point of it is to introduce the people who don't know,
Right.
and like get them into it.
Right.
Right. Don't scare them off to be like, oh, your palate's garbage. Oh, you don't know cigars. You're right. They just started. You're correct. Correct. That is right. And I think that's the best place to be. Like how do you feel about it? Like I can still look back to like when I was first getting into cigars, and every cigar I had, I didn't come at it as somebody who was like, that I was looking to critique a cigar. It was just like I was smoking a cigar to smoke a cigar.
And trying to, for me at least, trying to find one that I was like, okay, I really like this one. Okay, what is unique about this? Oh, okay, it's made in Nicaragua. I haven't had any from here yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Oh, let me smoke another one made there. And then like whittling that down, but less of like, oh God, I hate this brand and every single thing they make. And more just like, for me, it was finding what was the common thread in everything that I really enjoyed in cigars. And I found a lot of different stuff that I loved. A lot of it comes out of Nicaragua. But then I also found myself getting attached to brands that would share or have a story or something that I felt like I could relate to.
Course. Yeah, absolutely.
And that to me also builds this connection where it's like, man, I know so much more about this. I know, maybe I don't know him personally, but I know that guy. Yeah. I've listened to him. I've heard his story. And I don't know. I think the cigar tastes better that way. It's part of this whole process of like the 300-400 hands that touch a stick before it gets to a humidor. That is so fascinating. That changes it from just critiquing it because there was a small crack in the wrapper to just like really enjoying it as like what it is.
Like he just says, like imagine how many things have to. We were even saying earlier, like talking about cellophane on cigars. You're like that. I was like, oh, it's the worst, but also kind of the best because it actually saves the cigars.
Right.
And it's just like some little thing like that where like you get hung up on aesthetics, you get hung up on this, on that, and it's like to think of what these dried up leaves have to go through to finally get here for us to sit here and talk
$10,
and to talk about it is just like amazing.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm telling you, man, like, and I actually asked somebody who was in the wine business because I always thought it was so cool to take like one of those, the SOM classes and really learn how to, not to say learn how to drink wine, but really just learn what they learn, understand what they're looking for and yada, yada, yada. And this guy told me, he's like, honestly, don't take the class because the moment that your palate begins to just start looking for something wrong with the wine, you're not really drinking it.
Right.
You're just there to critique it. And I'm like, damn, I never really thought of that. I thought it was like help the drinking process. And I don't know. Have you ever heard of anybody describing like that?
No, but I love that you just said that because it reminds me of what we were saying last night. We were talking about coffee or even cigars. Like there's people in different industries, whether it's wine, beer, coffee, cigars, whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is all I do.
Correct.
My core focus is just critiquing, blending, making the perfect cigar. And I'm just like laser focused on that always.
Yeah.
I find, for me, I could never do that. I would get burnt out of one thing. If that's like, you can only do this, you have this, this, and this, and that's it. Yeah. Go for it. Because where do you find the joy in everything else or in other people's cigars or in stuff that maybe is different? Not bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
And with coffee, for me, that was my relationship with coffee from like 2012 to like 2018, 2017 was all I would do is critique coffee. This coffee's trash. This is too acidic. The roast profile is wrong. They dropped it at too low of a temperature.
A little snobby.
It wasn't brewed correctly. The grind size was off. The water's incorrect. The scale wasn't like all these things, right? And it was like, yeah, I'm a coffee snob. And then I was like, do I like coffee or do I just like shitting on it? Like people that don't make it right.
Yeah.
And there's like a switch that had to happen where now it's so funny because like before, you know, I'm like, I'm a scale, my V60, like everything is dialed. My third wave water is like the correct pH levels.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, somebody turned like the coffee pot on.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Where's that?
And when we released the CigarClub coffee, it was darker than anything I normally drank, which normally I would, in the past, I would have turned my nose up to like, oh, darker is the coffee. But I'm like, I want a coffee I can enjoy with a cigar, not like lemon water. And the relationship with coffee started to change, but I started to enjoy it more. And it was less about what's wrong with the coffee. And it was like, this coffee is good. And beyond that, it's enhancing my cigar experience.
Yeah.
I'm having a great conversation over it. It became more of like that community elixir than this like experimental wizardry that kept me in like a little room critiquing it.
Well, you know what's funny that you said is that I feel like now with whether it be cigars or even coffee is trying to bring, even like we were talking about earlier, like with food and sauces and stuff like that, is to have different people try with different things. Yes. I think that the whole thing with cigars, I think it's so much fun to take cigars and enrich other experiences that aren't stereotypical, right? So like, of course, when you think of, oh, hey, when I'm playing golf, when I'm drinking, when I'm this, that, but like to do something, oh, hey, what if I don't know, like what if, like, I mean, anything, like just taking it out of it. Like if I'm at a baseball game, if you're at a sporting event, if you're at a camp out and like different stuff that it's not just sitting around having a cigar, you bring it into your everyday life where it becomes like a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just
part of the moment.
Correct. Part of the moment, not the moment.
Right.
Which I think has been so cool because I'm sure that you know a lot of people who are not huge cigar guys. And that's always, I think as a cigar person, you always have cigars and you're always wanting to share it. But because there's like a lot of people don't like it, it's so fun to be able to bring it to not a typical situation, like a family party or anything like that. And then all of a sudden you're at a cookout and now 7 people are smoking cigars in a group that have never smoked before. And you're like, yeah, this is what it's actually about.
100%. And you're also not sitting there smoking it, really thinking about,
correct.
Oh, is the Lajero placement correct on
That's
this?
what I'm saying.
Is my wrapper cracked? Is the profile? It's like, I'm enjoying this moment with a cigar.
That was put more eloquently where I'm saying trying to take it out of what we know it as, right? Of like the reviews and the tasting tables and the things like that. It's like just to enjoy what it's doing. Enjoy the actual smoking with the people that you want to smoke with or people you've never smoked with before. And I think that's like, it's almost like when people are like, oh, to be young again. Like that's almost like it's that idea.
Light up
like,
a cigar.
Yeah, light up a cigar and just do
grab some friends.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think that's the coolest thing is when you see pictures and stuff like, and you guys do a great job of putting cigars in different moments that I think is just perfect. Because now I'm sure that everybody like growing up, you always think of like the guy with his cognac sitting around like the fireplace. And it's like, how do you turn that into a young man's game, right? Like how do we make it so that it's not like, okay, yeah, you don't have to smoke a cigar every single day of your life, but man, when you're smoking, smoke them good. And when you're smoking, smoke with somebody. Like make it something awesome, not what the stereotypical thing is.
Right, exactly. And even down to like collecting and saving the special cigars, it's like, just enjoy them. Mm-hmm. And I think something that we've tried to do with CigarClub is, one, we've shipped more like boutique brands and brands people never heard of in their life than ever before in our like company's in our 5-year history this past year, because it became this thing of we want to work with people who get that vision. Like for me, it's been a lot of younger guys in this industry that I feel this relate to, that I relate to, that our team relates to, where it's about the experience. And yes, they're making great cigars, but so many people make great cigars.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so many great master blenders create great cigars for a lot of people too. And what can we do that's different? What can we do that really shares with people what we think the cigar community is and can be? And that's like moments. Yeah. And that's, hey, here's 5 cigars you probably never heard of. I promise you they're great. Yeah. I think you're going to like them. Rate them, review them. We'll put more stuff in your box next week. But hey, here's Matt. Here's a video with Matt. Like learn about what he does. Learn about what drives him, even beyond cigars. Right? And because that's so much of your story now too, is like the person, the entrepreneurial, like, man, I'm just doing things I love to do with people who are really great to do it with.
Well, no, I think the other thing that it's like very important when it comes to even owning a brand is like, even like I was talking about with my buddy Will Snyder, like that idea of, for people out there, right? So, I mean, everybody consumes things all the time and there's not always a face to it. It's like, all you out there, you know that, no, I'm just saying like when all the boxes that people get, they can now know this is the face that smiles every single time that they smoke that cigar. Because that's so exciting.
Post about it. And
post about it. Literally post everywhere. I think it's so cool how many more posts that we've gotten since you guys have become our partners, that it's like, that's the best. Because just to see strangers enjoying, having a moment with people.
Yeah, especially with a product like you said yourself, where it was like, I want to make great cigars, and at the very least, it's like cigars I want to smoke all the time myself.
Correct. Yeah.
Like if all this goes south, I got a lifetime supply of cigars that I can smoke forever and be really happy with. That's got to be a really cool feeling when you see somebody else that's having a similar experience with your cigars. Like, man, I love this FQ Phenom one. Like, this is my go-to morning stick.
Yeah.
This is my go-to afternoon stick. I love it. Like, that's got to feel really cool.
It is. Well, and my favorite thing is, and I always think it's so interesting to smoke with people who don't, let's say it's their first cigar, if they haven't smoked a lot or whatever, have you ever had like a moment where you're like, you step back from the cloud of smoke and you're just like, damn, we are all vibing so hard. Like, this has been such a good night of like the conversation and like what it brings out of you. Like, there's something about a cigar that just makes you get a little bit more philosophical. That makes you get a little bit more like thoughtful and critical thinking. And I think that that's important. Like, how many other things in our world right now do that?
Right. Not much. And everything is so quick.
Correct.
This is not quick.
Well, and then if you think about like anything that you would think with cigars, like, oh, you think about booze, you think about weed, you think about all this different stuff. And it's like all those things take you out of your mind,
right?
Where it's almost like cigars bring you more into your own mind,
right?
And like make you really digest things and make you really think about things. Because that's the other thing. I mean, I've smoked by myself. I smoke cigars all the time by myself. And it's amazing when you can get into that moment of tranquility and just kind of be like vibing with yourself.
No, that's so true. I'm like, man, this can be the opening zinger line.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much sense to me. And I can think of like 3 legendary moments, and I can still tell you every cigar I smoked, everything I ate and drank that night.
Yeah.
That we've shared together with a cigar, whether like last night.
Yeah.
We had Austin from Durham Brand Studio, Ramsey, Cody. Am I missing something? No. And you. And we were just sitting up on the rooftop.
Yeah.
For like 3 hours.
No, the best part of that, the 2 guys that came out, they're like, oh, what's up? This is a cigar club? We're like, yeah. And they're like 3 bottles of bourbon and just smoking. We're like, just a Wednesday. That's
Happy
it.
Wednesday.
Happy
Wednesday. Day is
like,
here.
Cinco de Mayo, and we didn't even know.
It was Cinco de Mayo. We were drinking bourbon. I had tacos.
I did.
Okay, so I think of that, and I think of a night on like my front porch last time you were up here, where we like talked for hours, and you met Eric, and we just hung out. Like, that was great. Think of like walking into your house for the first time I met you, and you're like, just come over and I'll cook you lunch. And I'm like, okay. And I don't even know your last name.
Yeah.
And then I walk in, and you're like, you got the music going, you're cooking a roast con pollo, you're smoking a cigar, drinking Havana Club, like some rare shit. And you're like, yeah, grab a cigar and hang out. And I'm like, who is this guy? And then you're like, oh, try this. It's like the first ever run of phenoms I did like 100 years ago. And try this, and here's that, and tell me about you. And it's like all these moments where it's like, man, like I could tell you all the cigars I had, and they were all great.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sitting there critiquing cigars.
Correct.
I was enjoying them.
Yeah.
The work was already done. There's nothing I'm going to critique about them. But more importantly, I remember the moments around.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what's
cigar.
so cool is to think each of those stories, the first one, when you first came over, you were a stranger. Yeah. The second one, I'm over at your house, Eric was a stranger before that night. Then last night, all 3 of these guys were strangers. And it's like, now, boys. Just like cutting up, like just having a good old time. And I do think that there is something to be said about cigars that brings kind of those walls down and gives the opportunity to build those kind of moments and remember those kind of things and be like, I mean, literally all those moments I can vividly remember, like you said, what we drank, what we ate, what we talked about. Like, I think that's awesome.
No, I love it. And to wrap up that thought, I think that's like the perfect way to say it. And I think for you, a lot of the stuff that you're working on outside of cigars still comes back to that same thing where it's like there's a product that's the elixir to community. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about your pasta sauce brand, stuff you're working on with coffee that we might be dabbling in a little bit. And then I want some opinions on like wine and fashion and
we can talk about all those things.
Anyway, we'll be right back on the Cigar Club podcast. We're here with Matt Hunt, FQ Cigars. Don't go away.
The Cigar Club podcast is brought to you by Cigar Club Customs. Cigar Club Customs is Cigar Club's brand new subscription that delivers 6 times a year custom blended small batch cigars from factories all around the world. Join today to taste these new boutique small batch blends that our team is putting together and blending every other month. You can use code CUSTOMS20 to get 20% off your first month's box of our new subscription. Just head over to cigarclub.com/customs to check it out and to order yours today. Happy smoking.
Welcome back to the Cigar Club podcast. We left and went to Nicaragua, but now we're back.
Got a little tan.
Looking
pretty good.
I got crisped up in Miami last week.
I was going to say.
It was,
but you've been hitting Miami like a little bit.
Oh, you got to. It's the motherland.
Yeah,
it's like the U.S. motherland for cigars. Like, what do you want me to do?
That is true.
We're back. We're having a good time. I was in Miami. Matt's from Orlando.
I am from Orlando.
But I want to know, the people want to know, how's Fratelli going?
So
And for
Fratelli,
people that don't know, what the hell is Fratelli?
so Fratelli and Company is a pasta sauce that me and a couple buddies started, Anthony Battaglia and the Jimenez, and it's been awesome. It's been so much fun. We started about 2 years ago dealing with the FDA and dealing with all that kind of
You can't
stuff.
escape the FDA.
You
and all
cannot.
that
No
you
matter.
do.
I was about to say,
You love
for
that.
some reason, I just love to go up against the government. But yeah, so started a few years ago, getting through the process of getting something that was shelf stable. We have 2 sauces, olive vodka and piccata, and it's gangbusters. It's been, I mean, you just ate it today?
Dude, the piccata is, me and my wife talk about it all the time. It's my favorite thing in a jar,
That's the best.
period.
Yeah.
It just elevates a meal. It's perfect.
It's
every
easy.
time. I feel like I'm at like a great restaurant, and all I'm doing is opening the can and like heating it up on the stove and
that's it.
dumping it over anything.
Yeah. Honestly.
Pasta, chicken, bread, fish,
Correct. Yeah.
squeezing a lemon on top if I want to
Yeah.
be fancy.
I'm just saying, that's something that was our whole thing, was making it the greatest thing out of a jar ever.
So how does that even come to be for you? That's like you love pasta sauce, or does this come from like your love of food?
So
and
love.
moment. I don't know.
What you're about to no, you got so look at me. I love food.
I know.
Big food guy. But it actually ended up coming.
Former collegiate defensive end.
That is true. I know. Still have the college weight on. Can't get rid of it. No, but so it actually came from one of those moments. So one of my buddies, Andy Jimenez, the one that I've known since high school, always been a big FQ advocate, which I always appreciated.
Yep.
And we would always smoke together. Then they ended up getting a place up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. We befriended this guy that owned a restaurant up there, and basically every time we would go eat there, we would eat phenomenally well. Then go directly to the bar outside and literally close the place down and just smoke and drink and create memories and friendships and the whole thing, and
Right.
just start talking to every single person there and give out cigars and yeah, that kind of whole thing. And it was one night that just having drinks and having cigars and having this conversation of like, what can we do? What's the next thing for us?
Right.
And Anthony was selling the restaurant, and Andy was hungry to get his fingers on some entrepreneurship passion.
Yep.
And so we did it. We got into it, and it's been so fun because every meeting is just eating and drinking and smoking, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I like those. And,
There you go again.
Exactly. And so
I do this all anyway. I might as well make
exactly. Why would I not make money? Well, in my
money.
case,
And have a lifetime supply of my favorite.
correct. But
things.
how? And also so fun because now, let's say you have buddies that smoke cigars. Yeah, that's what you can give them cigars. What about all those buddies who don't smoke and they want to still support the? Now they can. Now they're able to.
Pasta.
That same thing about like what we were talking about before. The moments. Food is. I mean, it's right there with cigars, right? I mean, granted, the only thing that's different is that you're actually having to prepare it. But our whole thing is that's why Fratelli's so great, because it's literally restaurant quality, literally no preservative, no added sugar. It's the best thing that can possibly be put in a jar, and just put it over pasta. That's it.
Right. And just like we were talking about earlier, I can think of so many moments around a cigar, and I can tell you what cigar it was, and I can tell you the people that were there when we talked about. When I travel,
Ooh.
I can tell you every place I went to
I was about
eat
to say
because
meals,
that's how
baby.
I travel.
Yeah. Have you ever done this where you're at a meal and you're like, so what are we doing for dinner?
Yeah.
You're like, damn, I have a problem. I have
I
a
have a
problem.
major problem
Yeah.
here. No, 100%. And that's like me and Chris, my wife, we were in Paris like 3 weeks before the shutdown in 2020. So February, it was my birthday. We go out to Paris, and it's so funny because people are like, oh, what are you going to do? Are you going to go see this? Are you going to go do that? I'm like, look, I can send you a list of coffee bars, cocktail lounges, breakfast places, and dinner, lunch spots that we're going, plus the Picasso Museum.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing in Paris. That's
like-
all. You put me in Germany, I'm doing the same thing. You put me in California, I'm doing the same thing. You put me in Miami, throwing cigars. But other than that, I'm doing the same thing wherever I go, because to me, that's how you can see a culture. That's how
absolutely.
you can talk. Like, I love sitting at a bar and talking with a bartender. I love going to a coffee shop and talking to a barista. It's so special.
And I think that it's so cool because you get the inside scoop, right? It's just like you're able to, instead of having a docent at a museum, you're actually talking to the people who are living there in it, and just the magic hands. You know?
Magic hands.
The magic hands. You don't see them; they just come in. But no, man. So the sauce has been awesome, and it's been so much fun to create it and share with so many different people than the people who just smoke cigars. Obviously, a ton of the people who smoke cigars have been supporting the brand, which is awesome. And then the next thing, the coffee, baby.
Coffee.
Talking a little bit about coffee.
Coffee. So we both love coffee.
We do.
And we love very different coffee.
Correct. That's what I was about to say. That you came from that new, what is it, the third wave?
The third wave.
Third wave.
Ride the wave, brother.
Who knew that was even a thing? I don't know where the second wave went. I didn't even know there
You
was
don't ever want to drink
I was
second
about to
wave
say,
coffee.
I never knew there were waves to the coffee movement.
There is wave. I don't know what the first wave is. I know what second wave is. We know what third wave is, but yeah. Come from the wave of the third.
See, and I'm coming from like,
You might be first wave.
really?
I think.
Am I the
Cuban
Caribbean
coffee,
the Caribbean water wave that is just like,
I'm pretty sure that's first wave.
is it?
So we'll just call it. It's the marriage of first and third wave.
First and third.
We are fourth wave.
Hey, we are four waves
we
together.
are fourth wave. But granted, I have to say, I love Cuban coffee. I love a colada. I love a cortadito. Rich, thick, motor oil with lots of sugar
Hells yeah.
and that creamy. Say it.
Yeah.
Espumita.
Espumita.
I love the espumita on the top. Yo me gusta espumita.
No, me gusta.
Me gusta.
Me gusta.
Why no yo me gusta?
Because you don't have to say all that.
Okay.
Say me
Me
gusta.
gusta. Me gusta.
Espumita.
Espumita. I love it. I love the espumita. I love Cuban coffee.
Yeah.
But like if you're like, oh, what does Coffee Dave think of Cuban coffee? I'd be like,
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, and so it's so interesting because I don't know how much everybody out there
if
wants
you're
to.
asking for like my critique on like
Which
how
I-
the coffee is. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I absolutely love it.
Well, that's the thing. Is like that's never been what it was supposed to be, right? So like
Right.
Cuban coffee, it was first wave. Just learned that it was first wave.
I'm calling it first wave. I don't
Was
know.
never supposed
Yeah.
to be third wave.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's one thing. Even
Correct.
now in this process, it's like we've been talking about kind of teaming up on trying to do some kind of a Cuban style specialty coffee.
Yes.
Right. So like kind of a heightened Cuban coffee, and where it's something that whether you're just an espresso drinker and you don't want any sugar, you don't want anything, you can get the notes and it'll have the finesse that you want.
Right.
But at the same time, you give a little bit of whip of that espumita, and it's just as flavorful and just as amazing as a Cuban coffee. And if anything, it'll be a little bit different. It won't be
Right.
the same old burnt rubber with sugar on top that you get.
Right.
Which
And that's
is
the thing.
whether I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that's what I like it.
Exactly. Me too. I do. But there's something really cool about being able to say, hey, we're still going to use specialty graded coffee.
Correct.
From one farm
Correct.
that it has these characteristics that we want to share. Like we can tell a story of a farmer. We can tell a story of the person who roasted it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of Cuban coffee to this point you can't really trace it back
Yeah.
past
Well,
the
a lot of them they're all owned by
airtight
the
bag.
well, and they're all owned by the same company.
Right.
So I know like with Butelo and Pilon, they're both owned by the same company.
Yeah. So to have one that's like you can one trace it back, two maybe it's a little different,
Yeah.
but three it comes back to the fact that now this is still great. This is Cuban coffee,
Yeah.
baby. Like that's what at the end of the day it needs to be because it's one of my favorite pairings on earth.
Yeah.
Is a colada and a cigar. Like
Yeah. Absolutely.
call it a day.
Yeah.
That's to me something I'm really excited about. It's again me like putting down the like stereotypes of when you're single laned in one industry, one vice, one product for so long, you miss a lot of the enjoyment of it. Stuff like this to me is like it's enjoyment because I think of people drinking Cuban coffee. It's all about sharing. You get the colada and you get like 90,000 plastic
The
cups.
thimbles, the little thimbles.
And you crack the styrofoam and you pour for everybody. I
Yeah.
normally just drink the whole damn thing, but
Yes.
I respect the fact that it's fun to like, you walk into a cigar lounge, you drop the thimbles out on people,
Yeah.
you have a good time. But that's like what I love about Cuban coffee.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the Cuban people. It's like this lively,
Well, and that's the
energetic.
thing,
Bring
like,
them in, come on.
So,
hey.
and that's the thing that I think is a little bit different, especially when you think of like how coffee is viewed in the United States versus a lot of other places in the world. That like whereas here it's like okay, coffee is something that it's gonna like sort of like fuel for your body. It's gonna wake you up. It's gonna this that. It's not seen as what a cigar is, right? It's
Right.
not necessarily seen as like a consumable for pleasure anymore. It's seen as like oh, I gotta get my
Coffee.
fix. I gotta
Yeah.
get my fix and blah blah blah. Whereas I grew up. But when I was growing up, I literally had like café con leche to go to sleep. Like that was just the thing because like after dinner, all the older people, they all sit around. Nobody gets up from the table. You sit there, and they bring out the freaking huge cafeteras and they just start pouring. They just start pouring it for all the people, and that's part of the gathering. That is still part of the whole thing. And I think that'd be so fun. Like I mean, I know every time that I ever have like an actual cafetera of Cuban coffee, rarely do I drink it by myself because. Like that's the fun part is to be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody and not be in a hurry, not be in a rush. Like that's the point. It's creating that moment.
Right, and it reminds me, just like it reminds you of that, it reminds me growing up in like a Lebanese home with Turkish coffee was always on the mocha pot on the stove, or we could go over to my grandparents' house. You finish eating, Turkish coffee comes out on like the really quaint like
Yeah,
dishes,
tiny little, yeah.
and they don't do like a lot of sugar in Turkish coffee, which is why I always loved Cuban coffee more. It's just like
Yeah, but also that's literally boiling.
sludge.
Yeah,
And
but then
like,
it's also coming
Yeah,
out
right,
scalding
correct.
hot. The first time I ever
because
had
that's how
it,
they separate the grounds of it. Yeah.
nobody told me that.
No, it's
so
hot as hell.
so Serbians,
Yes.
they drink
Turkish
Turkish coffee, and I will never forget this because it was after dinner, and then her mom comes out, "Hey, does anybody want some Turkish coffee?"
And you're ready to throw it back like
and
a-
I'm like, "Yeah, of course I would want some," because everybody else said no. I was like, "Yeah." Nobody gave me the heads up, and I just do one of these 3rd-degree burns.
Oh,
like
God.
done, like the worst tongue burn I've ever had in my entire life, and I was like, so maybe never drinking Turkish coffee ever again.
Right.
But no, just going back to like the concept that we're thinking about is more of how much we have 2 things that we like and 2 things that are already good.
Right.
How do you make them better?
Totally.
Create a story. Create something that makes it more about the sharing and the moments and like what it actually means to the people who made it versus just something that you do quick in the morning and go about your day.
Right. No, exactly. So TBD
Yeah.
or TBC, to be continued.
Yeah.
We got a lot coming out with that in the second half of this year. We're finalizing the blends for him now.
Mhm.
Talking with the roaster that
Yes, sir.
Matt's become good friends with, Big Cigar Guy.
We
love
love
that.
We love it.
And
So
he's
that's
down
a-
to make a specialty Cuban
So
espresso. Let's go, baby.
In his words, the first time we ever met, I actually met his wife first, Michelle, and like I was at an indie market. I knew I wanted to talk to him because I knew they were the roasters in town. And then like I'm lighting a cigar, and like I ended up getting a cold brew for her. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I would love to meet your husband." She's like, "Yeah, you got to meet my husband because he loves cigars." So I go and I sit down somewhere. I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to meet this guy." Some guy comes waltzing up. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man? What are you smoking?" Blah blah. I just start cutting it because he's a fellow cigar guy.
Yep.
Ends up
I
being
love that.
the roaster. Like he's like, "Yo, that's like I'm the coffee guy." I was like, "Perfect."
I'm the cigar guy.
And he ends up just like we smoke all the time, and like so a couple times that we've gone for the tastings, like working on it before we can bring it to the refined palate of David Ember. You know,
Yeah.
is every time we literally do the roasting, we do the pour overs because this is kind of the interesting thing too. I don't know if this is what everybody wants to know about his coffee, but we're not going straight for the dark stuff and burning and going crazy.
Right.
We're going on the higher notes.
Yep.
And I'm tasting a whole world of other flavors that I didn't even know existed in coffee.
Right.
And working our way down, roasting to see where we can hit that threshold of keeping the nuance.
Right.
And then figuring out where we can get that roundness and like the robustness from the bottom end in the
Totally.
roasting. And it's been awesome. And every
Totally.
time we finish, we always do rum and cigars. So it's pretty good.
Hell yeah.
I
Favorite
know.
rum with a cigar?
So my favorite rum. So I don't want to say a Cuban rum because I mean it's just like
Can't get it.
I can't get it. Even though that one that you had at my house,
Bro.
that's probably my favorite. Maestro, the Havana Club. That one's like Maestro's the jam. That is Maestro. That's probably one of my favorite ones.
I love that
because I know like of course like Flor de Caña is great and all these other
I
ones.
love Flor de Caña.
But that Maestro's. I mean, I could put that on an IV drip.
that
That's like
the patch.
patch, exactly.
One that was memorable. It's funny with rum to me, because I don't drink a lot of it,
Mhm.
but I enjoy rum. But I can think of every time I've had rum with a cigar because it's always with someone in cigars.
yeah,
Like we had
the Maestro.
the Maestro.
Maestro.
Thank you. Translation. We had that at your house.
Yeah.
I think of the first time I ever met Danny Fabio from Rodriguez Cigars at his shop in Key West. I walk in, he's closing. He's like, "No, come in, sit down, like have a cigar." Goes to the back, grabs a bottle of Zacapa 23, throws it on the table. It was like chilled.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And then I think my first trip to Nicaragua, although those guys like love Johnny Walker there, which is
Hey,
hilarious.
oh, God. Johnny
It's like
Walker Black.
I'm
Johnny
like,
Walker
you guys
Black?
have all this rum. You're drinking Johnny Walker Black.
Well, they
But
drink it
Florida
like it's-
Kanye is what we drank there.
Yeah.
And so I just like those three rums stand out to me. And I'm like, every time I have them outside of them, I'm like, I'm in Key West. I'm in
yeah.
Nicaragua. I'm at Matt's house in Orlando. Like,
I like how mine's like the least exotic.
well,
out of the three.
actually, I should say like I haven't thought that because you're the only place I've ever had that or seen it. So that's the only reason it's not. It's memorable. I just will never probably
Yeah.
have that again.
That's okay.
Unless I'm with you.
Exactly, which we like.
Did you bring that?
I did not bring that. I had to bring sauces.
You should go home.
I had to bring sauces. I already had so many liquids. I was like, how much can I possibly check before they're like, is this a waterbed? Is that
Who is
you have
this
too
guy?
much stuff in there?
Who is
That's-
this guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, big fan of rums. Nicaraguans love Johnny Walker Black.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
'Cause I know we always talk about pairings, and
Okay.
obviously I think that these ones are obvious ones. I know that last time I hit you with that the one out of left field when I said that rosés and champagnes were like my.
You changed my life on that.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
you've
like
listened to any of our stuff. I always talk about that.
Yeah, because it's a great thing. That's just what I'm talking about. Taking it out of kind of the
You ruined
status
my.
quo.
People think I'm crazy when I suggest pairings now because I always do the opposite.
But
I
it's
always
great.
take the heavy cigar with the light pairing,
which
And
is
all the time.
I think it's great. I think it's a great. I love contrast. I love what it does. I'm a fan. So my question is,
question.
do you have any other?
Is this your podcast now?
No, what are you talking about? Nobody ever asks you questions. Come on,
I know.
man.
I like it. I like.
I'm trying to see what I
Ask
want to
me.
see if there's something I need to try. If there's any new tastes I need to get that is a must.
Ooh. Okay.
Welcome to Matt Hunt's podcast.
This was this month's featured pairing, which is why I'm saying it. And you've met Cody, who showed me this pairing. I don't ever mix soda. I shouldn't say never. I rarely mix soda and like a liquor.
Yeah.
I just like I'll do cocktails all the time. I just normally don't do that.
Because you graduated college? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
maybe. Yeah.
Like the
Cody's
rum,
fresh out,
the
so
rum,
that's
the
why.
rum and
That's why he
Cokes
brought
are
this one up. But he was like, Dave, there's this local distillery just over the river in Kentucky called Second Sight, and they do this spiced rum, and there's like a cult-followed small batch cream soda by Boylan.
Yeah.
And Cody's like, you've got to try this cocktail. He's like, it's boiling cream soda, spiced rum, bitters, and an orange peel. He's like, will you please try it? I'm like, you bring the stuff in. We'll try it.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
So he brings everything in. He preps his cocktail. And the cigar for this past month, that was our feature, was from Fratello that he's making at Hoya.
Okay.
And it's just like this super classic, like earthy, zesty, cinnamony, Nicaraguan, just beautiful cigar. And I'm like lively, spiced rum, sweet cream soda, orange, zesty, spicy, hearty Nicaraguan cigar. I'm like, this has to be good, right?
Correct, yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah?
I'm trying to think if we have any left at the office that you have to try. But everything comes together in this cocktail. It's sweet, but not too sweet. And then you get all these like baking spices and fruit notes from the spiced rum.
Yeah.
And then this just like hearty cigar. It's been one of my favorite pairings in recent memory. So I would like Phenom number 3 proper would both, I think, do the same thing with that cocktail.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's been my top recently. But I can't get over rosé with proper.
Yeah,
I can't get over that. That's the best pairing.
Well, especially when the other thing that I love doing.
When Summer Dave comes out, that's what I'm going for. Every day on the porch.
Just
proper rosé.
I love that. So one thing that I've been drinking a good amount of Negronis lately.
Did you see what I had in the office?
Yeah, that's why I asked about it. And then you were like, "Oh yeah, I want you to try that." We didn't try that.
We'll get it
just
today.
kidding.
That's from Fireside Cocktails.
I know.
They make a bottled Negroni.
I love all that stuff.
It was our featured pairing too. We did their Manhattan, but no, it was a Negroni 2 months ago.
Okay.
That bottled Negroni is like out of this world good.
Have
It's
you
sweet. It's tart. It's like, oh god, it's perfect.
Have you seen how many?
I'm a Negroni guy.
Me too. I'm a huge Negroni guy.
Negroni's a vibe.
It is such a vibe. It is such like
It's like
we always
a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. I mean, I'm like all about that lifestyle. I'm like, anytime that I have a Negroni, I'm like, I need to have loafers, no socks, maybe 2 more buttons unbuttoned, and a hard tan. And I'm like, I'm in the south of Italy. I'm good. I'm on like the Amalfi Coast, and I'm just like, I'm living.
And
That's
next on my list once we can get back out there.
I know, sad. All this kind of crazy stuff that's happening with COVID.
Just keep drinking Negronis at your house and pretend.
That's right.
You're
Well, that's what
pretend you're there.
That's what I was about to be telling you that. I feel like there's been so many, because you haven't really seen it with the cigar world, right? Because it's not something that we everything just went online, right? Because a ton of people couldn't necessarily go to stores, yada yada. But it has been so wild to see how many, whether it be restaurants or liquor brands, all these different people who have begun like canning their own cocktails. And Negronis have blown up. Like, oh my god!
Or even on draft at a bar.
Yeah.
Have you had a draft?
I've never had it on draft. The only time I've ever seen something like that, which I want to copy so bad for like my next get together, is those
or your next company.
But yeah, exactly. My next ventures is the like the water cooler.
Yeah.
But then the water coolers that have like the top that you can take off and then you can put whatever in it.
Oh.
Imagine that, but with just a Negroni. And so you just have legit like have Negroni
yes.
on tap. Dude, that's a thing. And I want it.
Believe you.
I want that in my life.
We should have that at the office.
Yes.
Then you would come up.
I would come work. I would work there.
You would just never leave.
I'm an intern.
Here until this Negroni runs out on this water fountain.
Let me know when it's.
Thank you, CigarClub.
Let me know when it's done.
No, I love Negronis. I love cocktails. And now that summer's coming, another one I love.
Yeah.
The Hobo Negroni.
Okay.
Are you aware?
I am not aware. What's the Hobo Negroni?
Miller High Life.
I love it already.
Oh God,
Champagne of beers.
the champagne of beers, and I can't believe this is slipping my head. What's the red liqueur that you use in Negroni?
Campari.
Yes, but there's
Aperol.
Aperol.
Yes.
You take two.
I like this game. Let's keep playing the guessing game.
You take. Is this good on me? I feel like I need to turn it. Okay, we're back. You take 2 or 3 capfuls of Aperol, drop it into the High Life, take a lemon, jam it in there,
The Hobo Negroni.
dump it with your thumb, pull it back up.
Yeah.
The Hobo Negroni.
I like that.
It's also known as a spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
That's the more esteemed name.
Oh.
But so we're in Mount Adams in Cincinnati, which overlooks the river and the stadiums. Me and Chris will do the walk with little Fred, our dog, our like 50-pound wiener dog, pit bull
He's
mix.
the best.
We'll walk up to the top. We'll bring a cooler High Lifes, a bottle of. Why can't I think?
Aperol.
I keep forgetting this. This is
It's okay.
bad.
It's
Who
okay.
am I? I don't know anything.
She usually makes it. It's okay.
And bring the Aperol, bring a lemon, and we just like drink a 6-pack
The
of them.
best.
And it's just like when it's hot, it's just the perfect summer
Oh
drink.
my gosh.
It's great. You got to try it.
I do need to try it. Well,
And it's
I
great
think-
with cigar.
Well, I was about
Why
to say,
not?
I do.
With Phenom 1, are you kidding me?
I know.
It'd be amazing.
Well, and the bubbles would be the game changer. The bubble, the actual carbonation from the beer would be kind of the game changer.
Palate
for me.
cleanse.
Love it. You know, I'm all about the palate cleanse.
So that's on your list to try, even before the
is.
cream soda cocktail.
So I think that should be something that you guys put out to the club members.
We will.
Be like, hey. No, I'm saying like, send us your pairings. I want to know. I mean, I know that we're supposed to be the
Folks,
the-
everybody listening,
I
hold
know.
on.
Come on.
You've been charged.
We have been charged.
You've
It's
been-
time for a call to action.
The call to action is send them in. You need to be a part of the Cigar Club family Facebook group,
I do.
which if you're listening to this or watching or not, you also need to be a part.
Correct.
Just invite request. We'll bring in, and I want to know in that group what pairings you guys have been.
Summer drink of 2021.
What's your summer drink pairing?
You're-
Let us
you're-
know.
you're
Let
gonna
Matt
be-
know. Matt's going to be in the group.
I am. You need
It's
to.
game over.
You're going to be allowed at your house very soon. So hopefully you got drinking to do.
Let's
So,
go, baby. No, that's a great call, a great charge to action for everybody listening. I love a good summer pairing and summer cigars, summer hangs, outside, a lot of cigar smoking about
I'm
to go
hoping
down.
that you guys are going to come down to Florida now.
We will.
I want to make sure you
Dude,
guys are
we'll be
coming
there
down.
soon.
You guys got to get kissed by the sun, you know?
Yeah, look, my Lebanese skin needs to come back.
That's what
Everybody
I'm
just
saying.
thinks I'm
You get
some
that
white guy.
Mediterranean- You look like you're from Cincinnati. I'm just kidding.
And-
Sorry.
And- anyway, the olive skin is coming back. But no, it's gonna be a big summer. I can feel it. A lot of
That's
Orlando
good.
trips coming up.
I know, and a lot of collaborating.
A lot of collaborating.
Very
So look out for the coffee. More FQ in your boxes. Fratelli pasta sauce on the reg. FratelliFoods.com.
That's right. FratelliFoods.com.
Check it out. Instagram.
At Fratelli Foods.
FQ.
At FQ Cigars. At FQ Cigars, yeah. Oof.
Easy stuff.
You got me messed up with the Hobo Negroni, man.
I had
That's
to get
all
you
I'm
back.
like. I'm just
We're
waiting
go-
till we can go
we're
to the
right
store.
now we're gonna end this. We're going to get Hobo
I'm going
Negronis.
to go
It's
run
done.
to go get a Hobo Negroni.
But no, dude, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I think these are the conversations that we talk a lot. We do a lot of cigar geekiness on the podcast. We have a lot of great brands that come on. But I think sometimes it's great to sit back and talk life, talk parallel industries, talk people's passion, because all of that to me happens around a great cigar.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for being here, Matt.
Absolutely, man.
Cigar Club family, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us today. As always, like this video. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. What was your favorite part of the show today? Drop a featured pairing that you want to see for the summer.
I'm
And-
going to try every single one of them.
He's going to try every single one. Download these episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, we'll see you same time, same place, Tuesdays on the Cigar Club Podcast. I'm Dave with CigarClub.com. Happy smoking.